Hey guys, it's Lion here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing another new comic books by the issue review series. We're going to be looking at Witchblade, the new series, the relaunch, and it's actually really great. I really recommend you guys check this out. So it's written by Margaret Bennett with art by Giuseppe Cafaro, who does a great job actually. And it's pretty surprising because I've seen Giuseppe Cafaro's artwork before. I think he did a series with Mirka Andolfo when she was writing Red Sonja. And if I remember correctly, I think this is the same guy. And I think I didn't really like his artwork that much in that one, but I freaking love it in this one. And the colorists here are Arif Prianto, who is, I think he's a Filipino artist, and he's mostly doing coloring right now, but I think he wants to do actual inks at some point, right? Actual, like the drawing aspect, right? But I'm not too sure. And the letterer here is Troy Pateri. And this team has done a great job with this series, right? So I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a very serious Witchblade fan, but I do like those classic Silvestri and Michael Turner series, right? Like I like Fathom. Actually, I think I like Fathom more than Witchblade, but I've not read that much of it. And Witchblade, I think I've only read about the first 6 or 7 issues. I do have Witchblade Complete Edition Volume 1 over there in a hardcover, and I've read some of it. But Witchblade is kind of interesting to me because I love the aesthetic of it. I think the style is really good. And when I think of comic books, I think of Witchblade, right? But it's a series that just doesn't really work nowadays in the kind of modern sphere, right? Like because it does lean into that cheesecake, like to a ridiculous degree, right? But I think that Margaret Bennett has done a great job with this, and it does have a little bit of cheesecake here and there, but not to the level that it used to. And the story is pretty cool. And this first issue is really a slight reimagining, update, I guess you could call it, to the original Witchblade. So it's not like they're completely changing everything. This is just like turning the Witchblade character from a single creator type series into a IP like Spider-Man or Superman, right? Where there is a base origin story, you're gonna go through it, and then you're gonna go start telling your stories from there, right? At least that's what it seems like right now. I don't know if this is going to be an ongoing or if this is gonna be a limited series just to get Witchblade back in the zeitgeist or something, but it's really cool. I really, really like it. I know that Witchblade was a huge deal back in the day, so it's nice that it gets some love. It's really cool. And I think everyone that worked on this did a great job, right? So if you liked Witchblade or have been interested in Witchblade before but haven't been able to track down the story in any way, I think this is a good jumping on point. It's a good retelling of the original series. At least that's what it looks like so far. And this first issue is actually pretty cool because it has the issue, and then it has a bunch of extra stuff that relates to the artwork and the process behind the artwork. And it even includes all of the main variant covers, right? So you get to see a bunch of them, and they're all really cool. The Scott Campbell one is probably my favorite, but I don't really like chasing covers, so I'm not going to, because I know that that's a slippery slope, and I'm immediately gonna start having issues with that if I start getting them. So I'm not gonna chase it down, but if I ever see it like discounted somewhere, I might get it because it's really, really cool. However, this main one is also really interesting, and I recommend you guys check this out, right? So go and get yourselves some Witchblade. So yeah, now let's actually talk about the series, right? So that was my non-spoiler kind of concept here. Now let's look into what happens in this issue properly, right? So it opens up in New York City. Zara Pacini, like very similar to the previous series. She says, "I will die in an hour." We get to see a kind of preview of how badass she's gonna be as the Witchblade in this really cool like Witchblade attack that she does, the sequence where she just murders a bunch of bad guys. And then we go back in time, right? So Berlin, 9 hours before the opening of the series, and we get to see Kenneth Irons looking pretty different from what I remember him from the original series, but really, really cool either way. He has more of a, like, what's his name? Jeremy Irons, right? No, something different, like, well, I don't know. I can't think of a good actor to compare him to, but he has like maybe Josh Brolin, right? Something like that. He has that kind of look to him. He's kind of older. He's a bit refined, and he's really, really cool looking. And he's looking for the Witchblade. And they're in Germany. They're digging through this area, and this woman worker is told to go grab the Witchblade, right? Because men can't grab it. And she does, and it's like this weird alien spider thing. It almost reminds me of Venom or Parasite. It has that kind of vibe to it, and it's really, really cool. And then it infects her, and then it moves her. It forces her to steal someone's car. It drives her to the airport, forces her to drive to the airport. Irons goes crazy, and he's like, go follow it. It almost reminds me of like a Jurassic Park scene for some reason. I don't know which one it is exactly, but there is a semblance that to a scene in Jurassic Park that just kind of screams at me at this point. I don't know why. I don't know what it is either. I can't remember the scene off the top of my head, but something about it was like, oh, this is like Jurassic Park, and I don't know which one, right? So yeah, but she goes off. Irons forces everyone to follow her, and the Witchblade takes over this female cop at the airport who has a hijab, which is pretty interesting. It makes sense because they're in Germany, and my understanding is that there's a pretty big Turkish community in Germany, right? So there would be these people that are more Middle Eastern there, and it's pretty cool that we get to see that, right? It's also something that you wouldn't expect in like a cheesecake type book like this, so that's cool. It's not like she's important or anything. It's just interesting that I noticed that she was wearing a hijab, and it seemed kind of cool. It was very authentic, if that makes sense. Then it takes over a stewardess, and then it does these weird like spidery things inside the cargo hold of the plane. It's just kind of like hanging there in a really weird pose, but very interesting, and it makes it really creepy. It comes off as this evil entity, not this like protector type thing that I feel like it is more prevalent in the original series, right? At least from what I remember reading of it. I do need to go back and read it, so I probably will after this, but it's really cool. I like how creepy and odd it is, right? And it manages to get to New York. We come back to Sarah at this point, and she's in this car, and she's with two people, right? One of them is her partner, Michael, I think is his name, and the other one is this female character. I don't remember her from the original series, so she might be a new character added in, or she might be a reference to the second Witchblade owner, right? I can't remember. I don't know who she is. And basically they're talking about, you know, how Sarah is angry and she's kind of scary and very intense, and they're driving to this place because she's going to infiltrate this human trafficking ring in order to bust them, right? And then we get to see Sarah's background, and it turns out that her dad used to be a cop. He was killed by crooked cops because he was a good guy and he was trying to stop them, and it made her really sad and angry, and she had like a difficult time. She ended up going to the army, which I'm pretty sure is pretty different from the original. I think in the original she just was a cop. It wasn't like she built up to it after, you know, some tours out in the world, and the war fucked her up like it does for everyone. And she came home, she joined the academy and became a cop, and now she's doing everything she can in order to avenge her dad. She's trying to find and track down the people that betrayed him so that she can get rid of them, put them in, you know, behind bars, but I think mostly properly she wants to kill them, right? But I don't know. So we get to meet Michael, and the girl is named Nicole, actually. They're her co-workers. They go into the safe house, at least she goes into the safe house, and they meet with this guy who's a human trafficker. And I think he's also a German character. I can't remember. He's really sleazy and kind of evil. And he gives her a gun, and he tells her, go shoot this guy because he messed up, and I need you to do it to prove that you're loyal. She's holding a revolver, and I did see someone complain about the fact that she should be able to see if the gun is loaded or not, but I'm not sure that that's true. I've never held a revolver in my hand, so I don't know. But I mean, it could be like a Russian roulette situation where it doesn't really matter whether the gun is chambered or not, or the gun is set to fire or not. It's about her pulling the trigger, right? And it turns out that it is something like that because she pulls it and it doesn't shoot anything, and the guy that is going to get shot is very happy about this. And the guy that had told her to shoot him is also pretty happy about this because she proved her loyalty. She proved that she wouldn't really hesitate to do what needs to be done, and so he kind of earns her trust to an extent. However, something happens. The Witchblade jumps in. It attaches itself to Sarah. Sorry, I thought it said attacks. It attaches to Sarah, and there's this really awesome scene as it coalesces and becomes part of her. And she talks about how something blooms. It just kind of like appears and creates something within her and makes her body different. And she says that her bones get stronger, her muscles bulge and get denser, and her fat blossoms or something like that. I'm not sure what this meant, that's a really odd analogy, unless it meant like it made her hotter. Like it made her fat deposits on her body like fit better on her, which it might do because the Witchblade is like a feminine thing, right? So it might make her hotter just because it like helps her like, it's basically like wearing shapewear, but you know, permanently, right? Something like that. I'm not really sure what this meant. It was a bit of an odd line, but I kind of understood the vibe, right? It was like, it attached itself to her. It made her perfect or as close to perfect. It made her superhuman, right? Which is fair. And then we're all cut up to the scene. We get to see this awesome scene of her kicking ass with the Witchblade powers, cutting people in half and shit. Really, really awesome stuff. And then someone gets their gun, they shoot her, and suddenly everything stops. And then later she wakes up, the bullet is pulled out of her by the Witchblade, her body heals up, and she goes and frees the women. Nottingham is seen, you know, up in the sky, like, you know, somewhere on a building, and he calls Irons, and he's like, I know who has the Witchblade, and it seems like it's active now. And this kind of ends here with Sarah and the women that she helped save going down to the hospital and getting checked out and stuff. And we move on from there. It was awesome. It was a really nice retelling. It managed to keep a lot of the same beats as the original, but kind of modernized it a little bit. It made it a little bit more kind of modern and exciting, I guess you could call it. And it kind of did tone down a lot of that cheesecake, because some of it in the original series is really insane. It's actually kind of like grotesque almost sometimes, but it's, I mean, I like it because it's cool, right? But this managed to have a lot of that cool, like, sexiness vibe to it without going like kind of insane about it. So it was really, really cool. There is a few things I want to say here. So first of all, there is a really nice letter of dedication to Michael Turner at the end by Mark Silvestri, and I think that's awesome. I really liked it. I thought it was great. There's also this really awesome gallery, and it gives you some of Giuseppe Cafaro's artwork. It shows you some of the other variants. The Scott Campbell one is the best. It's pretty cool stuff, right? So you get a lot of stuff in this issue. It's very exciting. It almost feels just like a celebration of Witchblade, not necessarily the start of a new series, but of course you know that there's going to be more because the solicits are out there already, right? So overall, this is pretty great. I would recommend you guys read this. However, there was one or two things that kind of bothered me here. So first of all, that fat comment was kind of odd just because I didn't know what that meant, right? Like if that was explained a little bit better or phrased differently, it would have been cool. Like, I didn't dislike it really. It's just kind of odd. Like, I didn't understand what it meant. Because when you say blossom, I think that means grow, right? I don't know how fat blossoming is helpful to Sarah in this situation, unless it was supposed to be like, it makes her hotter, right? Like, it makes her boobs bigger and her hips better or wider or whatever. And I don't necessarily see that that was the case. At least the artwork doesn't seem to indicate that. So I'm not really sure what it meant. I'm sure we'll get more explanations to it later, but that scene where we get to see her is this really awesome, you know, like widescreen spread where it's like up and down. You have to like hold the book like this to see it, and it's really, really great. It looks awesome. It looks amazing. It was just kind of odd. The other thing is, I like this suit a lot because, you know, it's skin tight. It shows off the character the same way that you would expect it to without being like just a skimpy thong, right? But I don't like this because it looks so creepy, right? Like this looks like it's supposed to be her skin, right? And the Witchblade is coming out of her skin, right? Which is cool. However, these weird like decorations there on her stomach are kind of odd because they look like her stomach is torn open, right? It looks really odd. At the same time, maybe there is some sort of like symbolism that this is supposed to represent, right? Like because she is a woman, it could be that it's like supposed to represent her sexual organs, or it's supposed to represent that, you know, she gives life, or, you know, something. There is like meaning that I could assign to this, but it just looks really creepy to me, and it looks really odd, and it's just really weird. I also really like this like Ultraman jewel in the center of her body. I think that's cool, and I also like that they're on her hands. I think that's really, really nice. But this suit is really nice. It just gives me like a really weird vibe when I see that the detailing there on her stomach, but it's cool either way. And I actually like the creepiness aspect, right? As you can see right there, there's these like eyeballs or jewels coming out of her legs too. So there is a more of a like cosmic horror, eldritch being vibe to this that wasn't really prevalent in the previous stories. So I like it. It's just kind of odd, right? It just creeps me out. It gives me some weird vibes, right? It almost kind of gives me like trypophobia, right? Like the fear of holes, right? And it makes my skin crawl a little bit, but it looks really, really cool, right? So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Witchblade. And, you know, maybe I'm not the right person to talk about the artwork. I don't know. But it is what it is. It's a cool story. I liked it. I hope you guys enjoy it too if you picked it up. And if you haven't picked it up, are you going to after this? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And see you guys later.